What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. Chance and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host James Haskell, as always, and a new guest and friend of the show, Kevin McGuire, who's the editor over at the Nittany Lions Wire. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for reaching out, guys. It's always fun talking to some new podcast guys out there, new sports guys, and sharing my insight and just having some fun conversation. That's what I'm here for.
Absolutely. We appreciate the time. Just like Glenn said, I want to echo that sentiment. But one of the questions we have, we always start with the character of the guy, because Eric DeCosta talks about spending more time analyzing that than the player themselves, where that's been a shift throughout the years as scouting has gone on and the years have gone on. So what kind of character, what kind of teammate are the Ravens getting in Oweh based on your analysis?
Well, you're certainly getting someone who's going to be a hard worker. There's no question about that. That's one of the biggest attributes he has coming out of Penn State. Because remember, this is a guy that hasn't been playing football for very long. So to get to where he has already become with a first-round draft pick, that is a testament to just the kind of dedication he has to what he's working on. So there's going to be no question in my mind that he's going to be someone who's coming in ready to go and looking to do everything he needs to do. So he's going to gel pretty nicely with his new teammates. He's not going to be someone that's going to come in and cause any trouble or anything like that. You've got a gritty guy who's ready to dig in his heels and get started.
Nice. Well, that's good to hear. I like hearing that he's a hard hat type of guy.
Absolutely.
But the one thing I think every draft analyst I've heard has been able to agree on when it comes to Odafe Oweh is that he's an incredible athlete. And I'm hoping you can expand on that, because really, to me and to the average fan, they're all incredible athletes. I mean, all of them are great. So just how good of an athlete are the Ravens getting in Odafe, and does he stand out in a league full of great athletes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a reason that he is a first-round draft pick, and it's because he is such a phenomenal physical specimen, for lack of a better phrase. I mean, this is a guy that has quick speed. If you saw that from his 40 time during his pro day, and that is really one of the reasons why he has skyrocketed up to the draft potential he had going into the draft and becoming a late first-round draft pick. His speed, his stature, it's all there. He's got all the physical attributes you need to be a guy that's going to have some really good success at the next level. And that's why he has been kind of viewed the way he has been by the scouting community. So you're getting a guy who, again, he was going to work very hard, but he also has all the physical tools ready to go. He's got the great size it looks like they're going to be playing him at a linebacker position, which a little bit different than how Penn State used him. But I think with what he brings to the table and some of the things he could still have to work on, I think that's a really good fit for him.
Yeah, that leads me into a really what I think is an interesting question, twofold here. Glenn, I might be stealing your thunder a little bit. But so I want to talk about the fact that the Ravens took him in the first round. They're going to expect an immediate impact. With that being said, he's so young he's so young in his football career. He hasn't been playing football, I think, only 5 years or something of that nature. And so he's got a lot to learn. So I have two questions. One is there anything right now that you consider in his game that's pro ready? And then based on his usage at Penn State, of course, he had, 0 sacks, which was the headline. Was that, you talked about position change or, the difference, the way the Ravens are going to use between Penn State. Do you think that contributed to the 0 sacks?
I think if you look at the way that he was used at Penn State, they obviously use him as defensive end, an edge rusher, and he has tremendous pursuit ability. He gets the quarterbacks. He didn't have the sacks last year, but he has had sacks during his time at Penn State. So he's always getting to the quarterback. He's always creating pressure. And that's one of the big things that they asked him to do. And Penn State had a pretty talented defensive line where if he's creating pressure, that's going to open up a lane for somebody else. So that's a reason why he has been such a valuable asset to what Penn State was doing with their defensive line. Going back to the fact that he didn't have any sacks, that's not necessarily the biggest concern I would have for him. Obviously, it's easy to stand out because you're talking about a first-round draft pick who plays defensive line with 0 sacks. But I think once you get him acclimated to the way that the Ravens are going to use him, I don't think that's nearly as much of a concern. That doesn't seem to be the case, at least as far where I'm sitting. So I'm looking at a guy that certainly thrived creating pressure and disrupting the offensive line, and that's really one of his biggest assets going in on the defensive line. But moving him to a linebacker position, I think you take away some of the biggest concern that some people may have had, which sometimes he might be a little slow off the snap. But if you have him in a standing up position, that's not necessarily as much of a concern.
And were you at all surprised that he went in the first round just based on the perception when they see that 0 sack total?
Not really, just because I've been following the mock drafts for how many months but leading up to the draft, and it certainly looked like all the momentum was there. And after he had a really good performance during Penn State's pro day, it looked like he was very much likely to be a potential late first round draft pick. And I think I always thought he was going to go in the second round, at least early in the second round, but it would not have surprised me at all to see him go late in the first round. And the Ravens just happened to be in one of those positions. I was looking at mock drafts with the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs before they traded down. Obviously, the Ravens took advantage of that. So it looked like he was going to be a late first round draft pick at the highest. There may have been a mock draft that may have had him a little bit higher, but I thought he went right around at the highest ceiling that I thought he had going into the draft.
Gotcha.
Now, one of the things I have to give my co-host props for is if for all of our viewers and if you want to laugh, go out there and look at my reaction to this pick. And neither of us were visibly excited, but Glenn has gotten me more excited because I've come to the point where I'm thinking, okay, his floor is that he's already productive in setting the edge and stopping the run. That's his floor. Based on our conversations that we've had, and that already gets me excited because we've had plenty of Ravens fans upset because we simply can't do that. So while we're excited about him in the pass rush, what does he bring to this defense from a run, stopping the run game from that perspective?
I think he's got a pretty good idea of how to track down a ball carrier. And I think if he's going to be playing a linebacker position, he certainly has to do that. And he also has to find ways to cover tight ends. I think he's going to be okay. I think he's got a really good football IQ. For as long as he's been playing, it's pretty darn good as far as I'm concerned. And I'll go back to that pursuit skill that I think he brings to the table. He's not going to have trouble tracking somebody down. So I think as teams are trying to open up their offenses a little bit, you put a physical guy like this with the kind of speed that he has, he's going to be able to go from sideline to sideline if you need him to. And wherever the ball is, he's going to find his way to it. So I think he's actually being put in a much better position at a linebacker spot than he was maybe as a defensive end. And, maybe Penn State missed the boat on that one. I don't know. But maybe the NFL is just a little bit different. Obviously, things are a little faster at the next level. So I think utilizing his speed somewhere in the middle of the defense is probably going to bode well for the Ravens.
Yeah, it was cool to see when I watched some tape on him. I can't remember the team, but they ran the option against him. And normally, if you're in that position, you almost have to guess, which one's going to take it. If you're going to be the guy making the tackle in the backfield, but he's so fast and so explosive, he's able to wait, see who's taking the ball, and then explode, and still can beat the running back to the spot or the quarterback to the edge. I mean, that's what I'm excited about is the athleticism that he's going to be bringing in that room. Because right now, we got some old guard there. We got Pernell McPhee who, while we love Pernell, he's got the heavy hands. He plays like a Raven and he brings that nasty. But he's not beating a running back to the edge. He's not, racing down at one of these athletic quarterbacks. So, I mean, personally, I'm excited to see what Oweh can do, just bringing that level of athleticism to the outside linebacker position. It's something I don't think, even as good as Matthew Judon was here for us, and obviously the Patriots thought he was pretty darn good with the contract. I don't know if we've had this level of athleticism in quite some time at the outside linebackers. So that gets me excited, Kevin.
Yeah, that's how Glenn walked me off the ledge.
Well, he is I'm not going to say a rare breed, but like I said, he is such a physical specimen there's a reason why so many mock draft experts out there thought so highly of him. And when they got a chance to see him in his pro day and really start to break down some of the film and kind of look past the fact that he didn't have any sacks, they see a guy that can play at this next level because he has the speed, he's got the physical strength. He's not going to be a problem fitting into a defense anywhere. And he's also pretty versatile too. So if at whatever point the Ravens decide that maybe he should be an edge rusher, they could try that out and see what happens. And I guarantee you, he's going to be able to penetrate the offensive line that's going up against them, and he's going to cause some disruption. That's one of his biggest jobs at Penn State, and I'm sure that'll carry over to the NFL as well.
Yeah, he's going to be blitzing the quarterback. Nobody blitzes, not even close, more than the Ravens. So
yeah, Wink is sending the water boy to the quarterback. I mean, it's just it's ridiculous. So yeah, he'll be doing plenty of that. My biggest concern with this pick was the bust potential, and I think that's something that people still talk about. And I think it'll take him some time to stamp out that narrative, especially if he starts off slow. Which, like you talked about, he's new to football, speaking generally, and so it's quite possible he starts out slow. But you also talked about his hard worker, blue collar type mentality. So, what is your concern level, or how concerned should Ravens fans be around the potential of him being a bust?
Well, there's obviously always a risk when you're using a first round draft pick for somebody with as limited experience as always bringing to the table. I got to see what he does in his first season. Obviously, getting him in the training camp, go through the motions, get through a preseason, see how quickly he adjusts. Maybe he's not going to be somebody that clicks on all cylinders right away in year one. But if you're thinking more long term, you give him some time to really grow and be coached up by the Ravens staff. I think he's going to be okay. So I would agree. There probably should be some concerns for the kind of impact he's going to have in his rookie year. Obviously, you want to have a first round draft pick have that instant impact. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be there for Oweh, but if you give him a little bit of time, year 2, year 3, he's going to get a lot better. So just be a little patient. I know it's tough to do with a first-round pick, but and considering you traded into that spot to get them, I do think that there's going to be some consequences or there's going to be some pressure there. But I would not be losing my cool just yet if he doesn't have the kind of impactful season you're hoping for out of your rookie year.
Yeah, absolutely. He definitely has. I don't think anyone can know what his ceiling truly is with such, him being so new to the game. But one thing else also I wanted to ask you is that the Ravens, they dropped their outside linebackers into coverage more than anyone in the league. It's them and the Patriots. And I think that's why the Patriots went and grabbed Matt Judon, because they saw he can obviously do it. So at Penn State, you said they played him at DN. So I guess it's safe to assume he didn't do a lot of covering at Penn State. What do you think? How do you think he'll handle that part of his responsibility at the next level?
There might be a little bit of a learning curve, I'll be honest, because he isn't familiar with that. Again, 5 years of football experience, and that's not particularly an area where he's been focused on. He's always been on the defensive line, creating pressure off the edge or coming up through the middle. So that might be a little bit of a concern, or maybe concern is not the right word. But it's certainly an area to grow, an area to educate him, coach him up, really study the film and really kind of find some different reads that he may have to be looking for that he hasn't necessarily been exposed to before. So again, going back to the idea where you give him time to grow, he's going to be okay, but that might be something where he might be a little bit lacking right off the bat.
Man, I'll tell you what, Kevin. So our guy, Josh Keatley from the Buckeyes Wire said, this is the guy you need to talk to about Jason Oweh. And you delivered. We appreciate it. We appreciate the patience tonight with the technical difficulties. Thank you so much for giving us the insight. I know our fans are going to feel good. My blood pressure's gone down listening to you talk about Oweh. Glenn, I'm sure yours has as well. Hopefully all of our listeners do as well. Kevin, why don't you let the folks know where they can find the stuff that you work on?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on. I would love to come back on sometime if there's an opportunity. This was a lot of fun. Obviously,
open invitation, Kevin.
I love it. And maybe I can return the favor to you guys sometimes. But I do cover Penn State for NittanyLionsWire.com, part of the USA Today Sports Media Group. So you can check that out, NittanyLionsWire.com. You can also follow it on Twitter at Nittany Lion Wire. I also host a Penn State podcast, the Locked On Nittany Lions podcast. If you want to check that out, that's available on all the different podcasting apps. I do some contributions to AthlonSports.com. And, of course, I'm on Twitter, at KevinOnCFB. I'm always tweeting out all the different stuff I'm talking about and sharing and doing. So I'm always staying busy. You guys know how it is. And look forward to talking to you guys all again in the future.
Yeah, man. Have a great one.
Thanks, Kevin. Have a good one.